A blessed Sabbath to everyone in all four corners of the world, north, south, east, and west. I'd like to greet you all on this Sabbath, the 12th of September, when we are all together here united to dig deeper in the mine of truth, the Bible, and the spirit of prophecy. I'd like to welcome you all in the comfort of your homes so we can enjoy the Sabbath. Welcome. We are going to study to prepare for the soon coming kingdom. We need to pry in the scriptures to know how we are better able to be found in the kingdom. What shall this kingdom be? How is it going to be started? How are we going to be ready for it? For no one wants to be left out. So it's our privilege today to dig deeper and find out what God has in store for us, so that we can be better able to be ready for the kingdom. We are going to study from the book of Micah chapter 4. We will start from the first verse. It will lead us into knowing how this kingdom is going to be started. What is it that is involved in the setting of this kingdom? Right, let us read from verse 1.
Verse 1. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and the people shall flow unto it.
Now, it starts with a very startling verse which is saying, but. Have you seen a sentence starting with a but? Meaning there is something that has been said before, which was, we are not studying about it today, but we start when he says, but in the last days. Yeah? It shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord. Now, mountain, what is a mountain? It's a church. So, the church, we know the last church of the hour, when Christ comes, is the church triumphant. So, wherever we have seen churches, they are all over the world. But the church triumphant will only be found in the house of the Lord, in the mountains of Israel. This is what the Bible is saying. And it says, it shall be established in the top of the mountains. This is the only place which is called top of the mountain is Jerusalem. Why? Geographically, when God created the earth, he left Jerusalem high at the peak in the mountains, like a temple where we have to go. So it is geographically created like that to be a temple for the last days. So now we are being told, in the last days, the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains. That's the only area that we know that the Bible refers to as the top of the mountains. It's a mountainous place, right? And then it shall be exalted above the hills, right? And people shall flow unto it. We want to get, where is this place where it's plenty hills, top of the mountain? If we go to Deuteronomy chapter 11, that will lead us to know how to describe the place of Jerusalem. What is it called in the Bible? We want to see which place has got these hills, where it says, where we are going, it's full of hills, and you've found the verse, yeah? 11, verse
10 to 11.
Yeah.
For the land whither thou goest in to possess it is not as the land of Egypt,
no,
from whence ye came out,
right?
where thou sowest the seed and waterest it with thy foot.
Now
as a
the
garden
Israelites
of herbs.
had come from Egypt, crossed the Red Sea, going to Canaan. So God is telling them, the land where you are going is not like where you are coming from, isn't it? Now what is it like, right?
But the land whither ye go to possess it,
right,
is a land of hills and valleys.
Do you hear that? That is the land full of hills and valleys. And what?
And drinketh water of the rain of heaven.
Now, let's go back to Micah chapter 4. Now we have identified which place the Bible indicates as a place of hills and valleys. Now we are being told that the mountain of the house of God will be established in the top of the mountains, in the top of the hills. And the only place we are seeing in the Bible of hills and valleys is Jerusalem, isn't it? Now read on from verse 2.
And many nations shall
Right.
come
Right.
and say,
Right?
Come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord,
Right?
and to the house of the God of Jacob.
Right?
And he will teach us of his ways,
Right?
and we will walk in his paths.
Right?
For the law shall go forth of Zion,
Right.
and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem.
So now verse 2 has told us exactly where people will be flocking to. For the Lord shall come forth from Zion. So people will be flocking to Mount Zion to learn of God in the last days. Did you hear that? In the last days, the mountain of the... Now, there's so many places where they are headquarters of religions, and we have seen some in, Washington, everywhere in the world. But here we are being told by the Bible, it shall be established upon the top of the hills, and people will flock to Mount Zion. Where is Mount Zion? In Jerusalem, right? So that's where the metropolitan church, which will meet the coming of Christ, will be established on the top of the mountain in Jerusalem, Mount Zion. We saw even Christ with the 144,000 in Revelation chapter 14 verse 1. They are where? Read it for me. Revelation 14 verse 1.
And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion,
Do you see? Where? Right?
and with him 144,000.
Do you see where they are assembled? So, are we saying Micah is right when he says that's where the law will come from the top of Mount Zion? We see even the lamp with the 144,000 on the top of the mountain, Mount Zion. Now, let's go back to Micah chapter 4. That's where we have our themes for the subject, yeah?
Verse 3.
So, what it means is that many nations shall come and say, Come, yeah? And let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob. He will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths, for the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord shall go forth from Jerusalem. Now, we are 100% correct where the law is flowing from. But we're saying, want to study what it is that will be, in the establishment of the kingdom. Where about? Where is this kingdom going to be established? Now, we have seen in the last days, people are flocking where? To the mount of the Lord. Where? In Zion, in Jerusalem. Now, must we wait for someone to tell us then where the kingdom will be established? We have seen exactly where the kingdom will be. And Micah is saying, in the last days, that's where people will be flocking to Mount Zion. They will go there to say, let's go and learn from the Lord. Now, let's go to the next verse. Let's hear.
Verse 3. And he shall judge among many people, and rebuke strong nations afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares,
Right?
and their spears into pruning hooks.
Right?
Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation,
Right?
neither shall they learn war anymore.
Right. Do you see? It's the last days. He says he will judge many nations. Where from? From the metropolitan city in Jerusalem. Right? It's Christ who has come. Let's go to Matthew chapter 25. When he's coming, he will be stationed somewhere. Where is it? Matthew chapter 24 verse 31. 25 verse 31. Yeah?
When the Son of Man shall come in his glory,
Right?
and all the holy angels with him,
Right?
then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory,
Right?
and before him shall
So
be gathered
now we
all
now
nations.
know where the throne of his glory, where he's coming to sit. Because Micah has told us that in the last days, people shall flow to the mountain of the Lord. Where? In the top of the mountain, in Mount Zion, in Jerusalem. It's clear from the Bible. It doesn't need interpretation. It's in Zion, in the top of the mountain, Zion, and in Jerusalem. And when we are seeing the 144,000 with the lamp on Mount Zion, we know exactly where it is. is in Jerusalem. Right? That's being intelligent. Intelligent readers of the Bible will know how to connect scripture to scripture. That's why I say, once you do not know what Micah is talking about, you cannot know what Revelation 14 is talking about. You have to connect the scriptures. Now here, it says, and he shall judge among many nations. We have seen on Matthew 25, when he is there sitting on the throne. Now where? In the mountain of the Lord. Where? In Jerusalem, in Mount Zion. What will happen next in Matthew 25?
And before him shall be gathered all nations,
Right?
and he shall separate them one from another.
Now,
as
leave that verse. It's saying, what is before Christ?
many nations.
Many nations. And Micah in verse 2 it says, many nations shall flow. Did you see? Do you connect those two? Matthew 25 saying, before him many nations will be there. And Micah is saying, he will judge between nation to nation. Did you hear that? These are connected. Do you see? They are talking of one thing. Yes. And then let's go back. And many nations. Read on, let's hear.
Matthew 25.
Yeah.
Okay. And he shall separate them
Right?
one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats.
Right?
And he shall set the sheep on his right hand,
Right?
but the goats on the left.
Do you remember when I talked to you about the goats that day? I said the goats are the ones that refuse the spirit of prophecy. They are goats. Now, in Matthew is talking about the goats. They go on the left. Yeah? The sheep to the right. Where is this incident? In the top of the mountain. In Mount Zion. In Jerusalem. Where he is sitting on the throne. And that's what many nations will flow to him and will separate from. This incident is pre-millennium. It's before the close of probation. This will happen. Because when Christ comes, the probation will not yet closed. It will be still running on. This world will still be running as it is. But it will be the time of the kingdom, which has been set where? In Jerusalem. With him sitting on the top of the mountain. Right? So, because this is a very special incident, we will not rest until everybody has known about it. We will preach, for this is the gospel of the kingdom, which goes in the last days. Do you understand? So we should be knowing it. There should be somebody sent to prepare for this very incident, which we saw. Behold, I'll send Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day. Malachi 3 says, before he comes, somebody is to prepare the way of him. How prepare? Preparing the people for this incident. Do you understand? So here we are told, before him, he will be separating some to the left, some to the right, and we have seen that there are goats and sheep. There's wheat and tare. You understand? So, there is saints and wicked people. So this will happen in Jerusalem, in the Mount of God. That's where all this dialogue, when there's those in the right will say, where did we do? I was sick, I was hungry, we didn't come, I was sick. They will be asking him, where? From the metropolitan city. Now listen to what he says there. Right? What does he say? Matthew 25, yeah.
And he shall set the sheep in his right hand,
Right?
and the goats on the left.
Right?
Then shall the king say unto them on the right hand,
Right?
Come ye, blessed of my Father,
Right?
inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.
What are they to inherit?
Kingdom.
So am I right when I say that's where the kingdom will be established? That's where he is sitting in Jerusalem, separating nations. Micah told us many nations will flow. They are not flowing to the cloud yet. No, I don't know how people are rushing for this cloud. For Thessalonians chapter 4, it's still further away. But this is imminent. It's about to happen. That's why we do not sleep, to make sure everybody is ready for this coming. Everybody should be ready, because it happens before the close of probation. Don't wait for probation to close so that you know about this incident. The 10 virgins, they waited for the probation to close, because the 5 foolish had to go and search this message. And they sought it and they found it. I should say they also Googled, and they went to BSM TV and they started all the videos. And then they were full. and enjoyed the BSM TV, but it was too late. The profession had been closed. But it's now for you to Google them, and everything that is in there is to prepare you for the coming of the bride, of the bridegroom. For the bridegroom, when he comes, the 5 foolish will discover they still need to read or to watch the videos. And the 5 wise were busy watching, and they enter in the kingdom, while the foolish go to, because they say they went to buy the oil, and they came back. So where was the oil? Somewhere. So what is the oil? The message. They went to read, they went to watch the videos. Too late. It was too late. But now you and me have a privilege of making sure this is fortified in our brains, and we are ready for the kingdom. Right. So the dialogue with some on the left, some on the right. Now let's hear the dialogue.
For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink.
This is what he acknowledges those who are entering into the kingdom, who are in the right. The sheep go to the right, and they are saying, well done. There is a dialogue, but still there is a dialogue with the wicked. Let's go to the verse where the dialogue is with those who, the gods in the left, right?
Verse 41.
Right?
Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand,
right?
Depart from me, ye cursed,
right?
into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels.
Right?
For I was an hungered,
right?
and he gave me no meat.
Right?
I was thirsty, and he gave me no drink.
Right?
I was a stranger, and ye took me not in.
Right? Right?
Naked, and ye clothed me not.
Right?
Sick and in prison, and ye visited me not.
Right?
Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, or
right?
athirst?
Do you see there is dialogue between the wicked and Christ? It's not when he comes in Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16. There's no dialogue. He's up there in the cloud. There's no dialogue with the wicked. The wicked are just destroyed by his brightness. But here, when he is coming, there is dialogue. Let's see in Thessalonians chapter 4. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Is there dialogue between the wicked? There's no dialogue. The dialogue is only here when he comes to establish the king. That should give you the idea that there are 2 comings that we are still waiting for. The coming to establish the kingdom, and the coming in the cloud without stepping on. Here when he comes in the kingdom, he's stepping on the ground. He's sitting on his throne. Where? In the top of the mountains. In Mount Zion in Jerusalem. That's what Micah said. Now, but when he comes in the clouds, there is no dialogue with the wicked. Let's hear 1 Thessalonians. Is there dialogue with the wicked? Chapter 4, verse 16.
For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven,
right?
with a shout, with the voice of the archangel,
right?
and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first.
Right?
Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them,
right?
in the clouds,
right?
to meet the Lord in the air.
Right.
And so shall we ever be with the Lord.
Did you see the wicked were not taken? Even those wicked who are in the grave, they did not wake up. The wicked who were alive, they did not go to the cloud. But those who are dead, what happened to those wicked who are alive? Go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 8. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 8. What happened to the wicked who were alive? What happened to them, right?
And then shall that wicked be revealed,
right?
Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth,
right?
And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
You see, there was no dialogue. But in Matthew chapter 25, verse 31, we saw there was dialogue between Christ in verse 41, Christ and the wicked. Which incident is that where there is dialogue between Christ and the wicked? It's not the same as the incident when he comes to take the saints in the clouds. The wicked did not go to the cloud. They did not even live because they were destroyed by the brightness of his coming. You have to study and rightly divide the word of truth. When he's coming in the clouds, he does not have anything to do with separating the wheat and the sheep and the goat. The separation of the sheep and the goat is when he comes to establish the kingdom. Where? On the top of the mountain in Jerusalem. That's where he has dialogue with who is wicked, go to the left, who is righteous, go to the right, and inherit the kingdom. He actually says, go in and inherit the kingdom. He says it with himself. And when he says the kingdom is not going to be established, I don't know which Bible you are using. Because the Bible I'm reading there, Christ himself with his own words says, come in and inherit the kingdom, while he's still separating them from the wicked and the righteous separating. But when he's coming in the clouds, the separation is already long done when he was establishing the kingdom. Do you understand that? We rightly divide the word of. If it means we have to dig deeper, let's dig deeper to find out whether this is going to happen. And we are saying it's going to happen. We have to prepare for the time where he is having dialogue with the wicked and the righteous, separating them. It comes first. And then the last time when he comes to take the righteous, he does not come to separate. He only comes to take the righteous and go. And he doesn't even step on those who are dead, the wicked who are dead. At that time, when he comes in the clouds, in Thessalonians chapter, they did not wake up. We saw the righteous, they rose up first and caught up in the cloud together with the living who are righteous. But when do the wicked wake up? Go to Revelation chapter 20, verse 5. Right?
But the rest of the dead live not again.
The rest of the dead, when he called the righteous from the grave, they did not wake up. They did not live. What?
Until the 1,000 years were finished.
Now, those who woke up, they caught up with Christ to go to heaven with the living which were righteous, to heaven for 1,000 years. And then after 1,000 years, what happened? Let's hear.
This is the first resurrection.
The first resurrection which happened there when the righteous rose up to catch up in the clouds. That was the first resurrection. And the wicked did not resurrect. So they went for 1,000 years with the righteous in heaven. That's what we call millennium years. And they stayed for 1,000 years in heaven and then came back. Now let's hear what happened.
Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection.
That first resurrection was only for the blessed and the holy. Only. There was no wicked who arose. So the grave of a wicked will never even open up when the righteous are being resurrected. They are only resurrected when Christ comes back with the saints from after 1,000 years. That's when they will be resurrected. Now finish that verse. Yeah.
Blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power.
So he's talking about the second death. So which was the first death? The first death is now. When you die now, you have died. That's the first death. So it means when they wake up, you understand, they wake up from their first death only to be given their judgment and die the second death in hell. That's when they are burned by fire. This is what will happen at last. So they have two deaths. So it means when you die today and you are not righteous, your works that you were doing when you were alive were not righteous. It means you are still waiting for another death. So you have to wake up and be tried and die again. This is what the Bible says. The Bible talks about two deaths. So you have to fight that if ever you have to die on this earth, it's only the first death, nothing to do with the second death. Well, the first death, when we die, we are resurrected when Christ comes, and that is it. We have no second death. But when you die today, I've heard people saying someone who has died is going to heaven. No, you don't go nowhere. You stay in the grave, you are resurrected, and you are told your crime, and the second death, you wait for the second death when you'll be destroyed by fire, by God. So we have to work hard to be righteous. Even when we meet our death, the death will find us when we are righteous. And we know we have no second death. Blessed and holy is the one who wake up the first resurrection. For he will be caught up in the sky where Christ comes in the clouds. So we're talking about the kingdom. Let's talk and enjoy and be ready. And the choice is really, entirely ours. The choice when it comes to heaven itself or salvation itself, the choice is yours. It's like when you choose preachers now. There are some preaching nothing to do with the kingdom, and some preaching something to do with the kingdom. The choice entirely is yours. If you want to waste more time in fables and being given fables, because Timothy says, beware, when we are preparing for the kingdom, some will be busy with fables. There are pulpits right now preaching fables. So the choice is yours. You can go to the fables and enjoy and say, powerful, powerful, laughing your lungs up. That's fine. That's your choice. But if you want to prepare for the kingdom, come on, let's go. Let's prepare and dig deeper in the mine of truth and be ready and not prepare for the second death. If we are to die the first death, that is it. When Christ comes, resurrect us, we are okay. Right? And let's go back to Micah chapter 4, back to our track. So we understand it better when we match it with other verses and see what other verses are saying. That's how to study, right? Where we were, we saw, now we are on verse 3.
Verse 3.
Mm-hmm. And we saw, he shall judge. Yeah? Let's go to verse 4. Yeah.
But they shall sit, every man, under his vine and under his fig tree.
Right. Where are we coming from? Go back to verse 3. Mm-hmm.
And he shall judge among many people.
Right.
And rebuke strong nations afar off.
Do you see how he was rebuking? The goat to the left, the sheep to the right. That's rebuking. When he sits on the throne, isn't it? Right. And then go to verse, finish that verse, right?
And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks.
Right.
Nation shall not lift up sword against nation.
Right.
Neither shall they learn war anymore.
That will stop everything that is going on the earth. Now people will only be concentrating on the gospel. That's what will take charge. Now people are busy, some developing atoms or whatever, nuclear, this and that, some provoking each other and what. That will stop when Christ comes. When he comes to establish the kingdom, that will be at a halt. This world will come to that standstill. Now, it's easy for God to make a world go stand still. Now, look what we are here. Lockdown everywhere. Lockdown, stand still. God can do that. If Corona can do that, what about God himself? Coronavirus can do that. Everything is on a halt. Whether you see there's a halt somewhere. But what about God himself? When he comes, can't he put things at a halt? He says, no nation shall rise against the other nation. Everything will be stand still when the kingdom is established. Now, what will happen next? This year. Verse 4.
But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree.
Now, instead of fighting, and neither shall they learn war anymore. This is what we heard. But instead, what will they do? They will sit every man under his vine. Did you hear? And what? And under his fig tree. If you have a tree outside, that's where you'll be sitting. You know, what does that expression mean? Nothing more to do except sit out there and say, I saw when the coronavirus was so much to its peak in another country, they had nothing to do except to go in the road, and they all knelt down, only praying to God. They had come to a peak to say, we are now exhausted. Our brain is gone. Do what you want with us. They raised their hands. They were kneeling in the street. It means there was no car. important cars, what you call them by names, Lamborghini, whatever, they were all parked outside. Now, Corona did that. What about God? Coronavirus did that. Your very expensive car outside there was parked. Sit, stay home. Everyone was stay home. Here we are told, no war, no sword against nation, no busying yourself with anything, but you will sit outside under the fig tree and say, yeah, Nechishona, they say in the Pererwa manch. When the kingdom is established, Pererwa chai. Yeah, you understand? People will, it will be doomsday. It will be a dawning of another era. Did you hear that? Now let's prepare for this important event. You and I, we've got to be happy on that day, because some will be on doomsday. Christ has come, is in the holy mountain, Mount Zion, in Jerusalem. Now, what next? People will, all plans will just come to a halt. People will be sitting outside, every man under his vine. Did you hear that? And under his fig tree. And none shall make them afraid. There are people now who say, okay, I was keeping all the commandments and the statutes. No more, no fear, nothing. No fear at all now. God is come. That's it. We have made it. Someone will be like that. And then, read and finish.
But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree.
Right.
And none shall make them afraid.
Right.
For the mouth of the Lord of hosts hath spoken.
Where said that? Where said that? Where said that? The mouth of the Lord. That's a signature. Whether you believe or you don't believe, God is saying, I know you won't believe, but the mouth of the Lord has said it. Sign. That event will happen. That event will occur. You understand? And here, verse 5.
For all people will walk everyone in the name of his God.
And people will now walk in the name of their God. Do you see the God is in small capital? Yeah. Whatever was your God at that time, walk in the name of it. And what? Some people have gods. We saw idols that speak, isn't it? There are people who instead had their major preachers who say, I can only do what this preacher says, not what everyone. Now that's your God. Everybody, go to your God. Go to your God. When he did not say that, everyone will go to his God at that day. And what?
And we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever.
But we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. And those only who have a God who is the God of heaven will be happy that day. But everyone will be walking in their own God. Yeah? And verse 6. In that day, said the Lord, right?
Will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted.
Right. Who is this one now? Remember the 10 tribes? When they were chased out of Israel, when they were scattered all over the world, that was affliction. And in that day, you understand? Repeat that verse. For that noise disturbed the verse.
And verse 6, yeah? In that day, saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted.
So we have said the 10 tribes were driven out of Israel, isn't it? They were driven out into all nations. Yeah? And when they were driven out, they were promised that they will be driven back to their land on that day. So in that day, I will take those that are afflicted and take them back to their land. Right? And
I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast far off a strong nation, and the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion,
right?
And from henceforth ever and ever.
Now, I will make her that halted a remnant. Did you hear? Where the remnant now is? the one that halted, or the one that were driven out. Yeah, the 10 tribes were driven out. Now instead, I will make them a remnant. Do you understand? And here, that was cast far off, a strong nation. Now he's rebuilding Israel again. Because before that, there were 12 tribes up to the time of Solomon. Now after that, after the time of Solomon, they were scattered. There didn't remain 12 tribes in the land. Only 2 tribes remained in the land. 10 tribes were scattered everywhere. But in that day, what will happen? All of them will be together as 12 tribes in the nation. So it's quite promising that. And,
And thou, O tower of the flock,
right,
the stronghold of the daughter of Zion,
right,
unto thee shall it come,
right.
even the first dominion, the
Right.
kingdom,
Mhm.
shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem.
Now when he has gathered the 12 tribes back to Jerusalem, what is it? It's now a kingdom. Read again that verse.
And thou, O tower of flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion,
Right?
unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion, the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem.
After he has done that, then the first dominion or the kingdom is now in Jerusalem. It's clear, very clear how the kingdom is going to be established. Very clear, whether you want to argue or what. Micah 4 tells you exactly what will happen. And then after he has gathered the 12 tribes back, then it becomes the first dominion. What first dominion? The first dominion was in the Garden of Eden. Yeah? In the Garden of Eden. And then we are back to Eden, or back to the first dominion, which is the kingdom. So when the devil fooled Eve, he thought he has already destroyed the kingdom. But God had a plan in the last days to restore that back to Eden. Now we are back to the Garden of Eden. When he has done all, these are the stages of how we are going to be restored back to the kingdom, which was there. For the first dominion was a kingdom where there was only holy people. The two, Adam and Eve, were holy. And that was the first dominion. It was a kingdom. It was a holy kingdom. And it was destroyed by Eve when that snake came through Eve. And until today, we are not back to that state. Only we are back to that state when God has assembled the 12 tribes, back to the first dominion, back to the kingdom. So Christ is just coming to make sure that kingdom which was destroyed in Eden is back. Now we are in the kingdom of glory. Because for instance, now we are still in the kingdom of grace. When the kingdom of glory was removed from the Garden of Eden, what came in was the kingdom of grace. That's why in Hebrews we find that it says, come bold in the throne of grace. But the throne which is coming back with Christ when he comes on Matthew chapter 25 is the throne of glory. Back. That's why he comes he will sit in the throne of glory. Back, the dominion is back to Eden. That's how it is coming. That's how it's going to be. And we have to prepare to be in there. You understand? Now let's read from Timely Greetings 2TG 31.6, just there below.
Okay. Clear it is that after the dispersion of the Jews and after the destruction of old Jerusalem in the Christian era, the last days, then it is that the restoration of all things take place.
Right.
And the fact that many nations shall then join the Lord, the restoration therefore takes place in probationary time.
Right.
In the great and dreadful day. The ensign too shall then stand, and to it shall the Gentiles seek. The day is to be great for the righteous and dreadful for the sinners.
So this restoration occurs in the time of the Christian era, in our time, while this probation is still on. Now let's go to Zechariah chapter 14. We want to see how then Christ comes in the kingdom. What are the things that we need to know about his coming? How is he going to do it? In Zechariah chapter 14, start from verse 4 and 5. Yeah?
And his feet
Mhm.
shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives.
You remember when Christ went to heaven, when he left his disciples on Mount Olives? Go to Acts chapter 1, when he was bidding the disciples farewell. You find the verse when he went, he had to rise, go to heaven up there, and the two angels. There were two angels. If two angels who saw them still gazing where Christ had gone. Right. Let's hear what the angel said.
10,
Yeah.
Verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven,
So, while Christ is
as
gone
he
to
went
heaven,
up,
as he went up, yeah.
behold,
Mhm.
two men stood by them in white apparel,
Right.
which also said, Ye men of Galilee,
Right.
why stand ye gazing up into heaven?
Right.
This same Jesus,
Mhm.
which is taken up from you into heaven,
Right.
shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go up into heaven.
Do you see? So what are we expecting? In like manner, where was Christ? On Mount Olives. In like manner, as he has gone, is the way he's going to come. Did you hear? When he went, he was from Mount Olive with his disciples. In like manner, we see now he's coming. In Zechariah chapter 14, verse 4, he should be coming back to Mount Olives. Let's hear. Yeah?
Zechariah 4.
Verse 4.
And his feet
Mm.
shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives.
Did you hear where it's not yet coming in the clouds? You understand? When he says he's coming in the throne of his glory, it's not yet in the clouds. He's coming to step where he came from. When he went, where the two angels promised that in like manner he will go and come. Same spot. He was from Mount Olives. Did you hear? Now we are seeing he's coming. He comes and steps upon the Mount of Olives. I know sometimes people talk about the stepping on Mount Olives when they are saying when we come from millennium after 1000, he's going to step on the mount. Yes, you will. When you are coming even from the 1000 years of millennium, you will come and step on Mount Olives. But here, when he's coming also in the kingdom, he's stepping on the Mount of Olives. This, which is what we are reading right now. Right? Let's hear.
And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives,
Right?
which is before Jerusalem
On the east. Yeah?
And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof,
Right?
toward the east and toward the west.
Right. So it's a spot. Mount Olives is a spot where Christ went from. Yeah? And where Christ, when he comes to establish the kingdom, comes to. But when he's coming in the clouds, he's not coming via Mount Olive. He only steps in the cloud. It does not step on the earth. But when he's coming here to establish kingdom, he's coming on Mount Olives straight away. And what happens to Mount Olives? It says, it is in the east of Jerusalem. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst. Did you hear? Thereof, toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley. Now when he's coming, he steps on Mount Olives, which create a valley. Did you hear? Why is that valley being created? Let's hear.
And there shall be a very great valley.
Right?
And half of the mountain shall remove toward the north,
Right?
and half of it toward the south.
Right, read on. Zechariah 14, verse 4.
And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east.
Right?
And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof, toward the east and toward the west.
Right?
And there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half toward the south.
Right.
And
This is enough to prove that when he comes, we want to know this is not the coming after millennium, where he steps also on Mount Olives. This is the coming to establish the kingdom. He is creating a valley for a purpose. When his feet step on Mount Olive, and the mount will cleave to the east and west, and then it means the south and the north has got a big valley. So we want to know why that big valley. Right, read on.
And he shall flee to the valley of the mountains.
Now, he has created the valley for us to flee from these different countries via the valley. Did you see that? The valley is a way out for people to come in. So we saw the nations gathered around Christ when he came. How did they get around Christ? They went through the valley. So how was the valley created? It was created when he stepped on Mount Olive. And the Mount Olive it cleaved to the east and to the west. And then a valley from north to south was created via Mount Olive. So this is for you and I to prove that it's not the valley being done after millennium. Because after millennium, there's no need for people to flee from the other nations to Jerusalem, because all the saints will be together, coming from heaven to Mount Olive again. But this is the time when Christ comes without saints. Right now, he's coming without saints, and he steps on Mount Olive. The saints are running from all nations through that valley, which is created from Mount Olive. Did you hear that? Right, read on.
And he shall flee to the valley of the mountains.
Right.
For the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal.
Right.
Ye shall flee, like as ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah the king of Judah.
It will be the same as when they fled from the earthquake. So meaning, when he steps, what will accompany him coming? A big earthquake. Did you hear? So there will be an earthquake. And when they will flee through that valley which he has created. Do you understand? Right. So let's go to timely greetings. 2 timely greetings. 31. Space 6. Yeah.
In that day. In what day?
In what day? Did you hear the verse was saying, in that day you will flee. Now he's saying, in what day? Right? It's timely greetings.
In the day, all nations gather against Jerusalem.
Right.
That
is
now
the verse.
is.
When we started Micah, it started with a but. It was coming from Micah chapter 3, where all nations had gathered around Jerusalem to destroy it. So now it's that day. So it's telling us exactly it's that day when all nations had gathered. And this is what will happen. You understand? And what?
In the day, all nations gather against Jerusalem that now is, and bring its fall from Gentile rule.
Right. Yeah?
In that day, the Lord's feet shall stand upon the Mount of Olives.
Right.
The Mount of Olives shall cleave.
This is what we have been told by Zechariah 14, verse 4. Right. Let's go to 31. Time greeting there. 31.7. Yeah?
The servants of God shall then flee to the valley of the mountains.
Right.
Where the Lord's feet shall stand,
right.
and all the saints with them.
Right.
That is, the Lord's feet will open the way for the restoration of the kingdom and for the gathering of the people into it.
So you see how people will be gathered. God will step on Mount Olive. It cleaves to the east and west, creates a valley north to south, right? And saints rush into that valley to the feet of Christ. This is what will happen, brethren. This is not the coming in the clouds yet. This is the establishment of the kingdom, how it will be started. This is how we will flee. And so many nations we saw will be gathered. That's what Matthew chapter 25, verse 31 said. All nations. Read it again.
25 verse.
Verse 31.
When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, when the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of glory.
Right.
And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divided his sheep from the goats.
Right.
And he shall
so we have been told all nations will be before him. Do you see how they went to him? through this valley, which has been created when he stood on Mount Olive. So this valley will accommodate the saints to flee into it, to the feet where Christ is stepping on. It's not how we do when we are going to the clouds. We don't go to that valley. This is the time when he is coming now to establish the kingdom. And we flee. Those who are outside Jerusalem will flee through that valley. And all nations will be before him. And he will say, the sheep to the right, the goats to the left. This is what will happen. And let's read again another text in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 11 to 14. We want to see what exactly will be, how will he establish the kingdom? How will people come out from all these other nations? We says he will take all the 10 tribes back and then establish the kingdom. This is what Micah chapter 4 said. And now let's hear Isaiah 11, verse 11 to 14. Yeah.
Okay. And it shall come to pass in that day
Right.
that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people,
Right.
which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea.
Now, did you find the names of these countries in another chapter in Isaiah? Isaiah 66, where we said he sent the 144,000 to these countries. Now, you see, now we are being told by Isaiah 11 that, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again. Why again? He set his hand first when they came out of Egypt. Now he's setting it again when he's taking from all nations out of the remnant now. Did you see it's a second exodus on its own? When he took the Israelites from Egypt, he had set forth his hand to take them out. And now he's still going to do a second exodus. If you don't believe of the second exodus, so neither should you believe the first one. But if you believe the first one, then the second one is there. That's why he says, I will do it again. Right? Now he says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again and second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left where? From Assyria, from Cuth, from Egypt, from Pathros, and all these countries. We saw them when he was going to send the 144,000. Let's go to Isaiah 66. When he comes, he's going to send, because they escaped the slaughter of Ezekiel 9, he called them the escaped will be sent where? Right. Isaiah 66. Start from verse 18.
For I know their works
Right.
and their thoughts.
Right.
It shall come
Uh-huh.
that I will gather all nations and tongues,
Right.
and they shall come and see my glory.
Right.
And I will set a sign among them, and I will send those that escape of them unto the nation,
Right.
to Tarshish,
Do you see those countries again? Tarshish,
Pul,
Pul,
Lud,
Lad,
that draw the bow,
that drove the bow,
to Tubal,
Tubal,
to Javan,
Javan.
to the isles afar off.
He is sending those that escaped, the 144,000, who escaped the slaughter. You remember the Ezekiel 9 slaughter, where he goes, this one has got a seal, come not near anyone with a mark. This one doesn't have a mark, slaughter. These are the angels that now these 144,000 are with Christ on Mount Zion. 144,000 are being sent to where? To these countries to gather. And this is what will happen. So now we are on Isaiah 11. It says, it shall come to pass that I'll gather all the remnant, right? And
Verse 12. And he shall set up an ensign
right.
for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel.
Right. All these 10 tribes, they had been outcasts. So what is it? They are going to receive an ensign. What is it? A seal. That's the seal. That's the ensign. Are we being in the sealing period now? They will receive the seal first. God, New Jerusalem, and the glorious star containing Jesus' new name. We saw it in early writing, page 15. So these ones are sealed. These, the 144,000, are the outcasts of what? Of Israel. These are the 10 tribes which had been scattered all over the world. And these are now back. he has come and stepped on Mount Zion, on Mount Olives, and formed a valley when the Mount Olive cleaved on these two sides. And then the 144,000 go to collect people via this valley. This is what will happen. And
And he shall set an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel,
right,
and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the
Right.
four corners of the earth.
this will happen. The gathering will people coming from four corners of the earth. Now, the 144,000 will be gathering the second fruits, because the 144,000 are the first fruits. Now they are gathering the second fruits from all corners of the world via the valley to Christ. Do you understand? And what?
The envy also of Ephraim shall depart.
So you see, there was a possibility that Ephraim could have an envy, isn't it? But now it proves it's still in probational time. It hasn't closed, right? And
The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim.
right,
But they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines.
right,
Toward the west, they shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the
right.
children of Ammon shall obey them.
That's the verse. You understand? So here, let's hear from Timely Greeting 2, Timely Greeting 31.7, third paragraph. It says, here we see.
Here we see that there is to be a peace. There is to be peace in the valley of the mountains.
Do we know that song? Right? Peace in the valley? Right.
Peace between beast and beast.
That's the peace being established by the kingdom. Yeah? There will be peace in the valley. Do you know that song? This song is singing about the kingdom. We sing it unaware. But that's the time for us now to be learning about the kingdom, because that's the kingdom of peace. Peace between beast and beast, and peace between men and men. And what?
Peace between beast and beast, and also between man and man.
Right?
For the lion shall not hurt the lamb, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim,
Right?
and Ephraim shall not envy Judah.
That's the verse. Timely Greeting is repeating the verse. Right?
Judah and Ephraim
Right?
are nevertheless to be in conflict with the countries surrounding the land. For they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines,
Yeah?
and lay hand upon the Edom and Moab.
Right.
The
Now,
Ammonites.
let's go to verse 15 of Isaiah 11, verse 15. Right?
And the Lord shall utterly destroy.
Now, how will they come to the valley which have cleaved to Mount Olive, which have cleaved to the east and west, and there's a valley? How then will they go? Because we know there is a sea there, the Mediterranean Sea everywhere. How will they cross over to this valley? Now we are being told from verse 15 now up to 16. Let's hear.
And the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea,
Right?
and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river,
Right?
and shall smite it in the 7 streams, and make men go over dry shore.
Did they do that when they were crossing the Red Sea? They went on dry land, isn't it? Now, same thing. Now it's 7 streams instead of 1 stream of the Red Sea. Now God will do it again. That very type of crossing the Red Sea is now done in our time in 7 streams, so that we go to the valley to go and meet Christ in the kingdom. And read also on 31 Timely Greetings, 31 8.2. Yes.
Yes, the Lord will open the way for the gathering of his people.
Right?
The exodus of today, therefore, shall be as the exodus of yesterday,
Right?
only on a greater scale.
Right.
God's people in these last days shall be gathered from every land, not from the land of Egypt.
Not from only one land, but from every land. Do you understand? It says so in Jeremiah chapter 23. Go to Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 6 and 7. Because when they crossed from Egypt, when you're talking to the Israelites that day after they are crossing the Red Sea, they will say, in the mighty power of Christ, of God, who made us come from one city, from one country, which is Egypt. But at our time, what will you say? Read.
Verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, behold, the days come.
No, verse 6.
Verse
Yeah.
6.
Mm-hmm.
In his days, Judah shall be saved,
Right?
and Israel shall dwell safely.
Right?
And this is his name, whereby he shall be called,
Mm-hmm.
the Lord our righteousness.
Right?
Therefore,
Right?
behold, the days come,
Right?
saith the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
that they shall no more say, the Lord liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt.
They won't say, oh, the Lord liveth, who brought us out from Egypt. What would they say?
But the Lord liveth,
Mm-hmm.
which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel
Right?
out of the north country,
North
and from
country.
all countries
All
whither I had
countries.
driven them.
Right?
And
That
they
will
shall
be.
dwell in their own land.
That will be the say after coming out of all countries. Because right now the say is out of one country, Egypt. But there will be a say in the land, which will say, the Lord liveth, which brought us from the north, from the south, from all countries of the world. It will be in our time. So that time will come. Let's go back to Isaiah 11, verse 16, right?
Verse 16.
We saw that on verse 15, the gathering will be done, and the tongue of the 7 streams of the seas, so that people walk on dry land. So God is just creating a pavement, an opening for everyone to be saved. And what? Verse 16.
And there shall be an highway
There will be a
for
highway.
the remnant of his people.
Do you see the highway which is being created via Mount Olive is the highway for the remnant? Who are the remnant? Those who were remaining after the slaughter in Ezekiel 9. Then after, this one has a mark, come not near. This one hasn't, a slay. Like what he did in Egypt. Where there was a mark on the door, where there was blood on the door, leave. Where there was no blood, kill. So this will be another exodus. In actual fact, the same as what happened in Egypt. But now it's coming from all countries via Mount Olive, where the valley is. The peace in the valley is. And then at that time, there will be a highway for the remnant to accompany themselves with the 144,000 in front, leading them into the kingdom. Do you understand? Read on. Mm-hmm.
And this,
Right. And
there shall be a highway
right.
for the remnant of his people,
Mm-hmm.
which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt.
Right.
Thus shall the kingdom of Judah and Israel be restored,
That's how
and be
the
given
kingdom.
peace and plenty.
That's how the kingdom will be restored, right? And let's see on Isaiah chapter 2, verse 5. Mm-hmm.
O house of Jacob,
Right?
come ye,
Come
and
here.
let us walk in the light of the Lord.
Come, let's walk in the message of the Lord, right? Let's go to timely greeting that one, 2 timely greeting that one, 8.8. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The message of Elijah
Mm-hmm.
that restores all things
Mhm.
is indeed an addition to the third angel's message.
This message is the addition coming to add onto the 3 angels' message. We saw that the 3 angels' message is not the last. There is another one coming to add, or the additional light, which is going to have a people like the 5 virgins will receive a top-up. But the 5 foolish will reject and stay on the 3rd angel. But the 5 wise will receive 2 more angels, 2 more messages to top up what they have. So the choice is really yours. If you choose to feather your light, it's up to you. If you choose to stay stagnant, you know exactly where you are supposed to be at that time of the kingdom. This message is an addition to the 3rd angel's message. So anyone who has not gone further than the 3rd angel's message cannot argue that point, because it's in black and white in the Bible. They've got to learn that message first, right? So that they know there is a message which never came to us. which people just say we are now up to third angel's message, we are finished. But that is the message which will give you translation. That's the message which will give you a seal. That is the message which someone was asking in the middle of it. Is the 666 going to fall on us or on other people? Now, 666, which are the Sunday laws and everything, they are not coming on us. What comes on us is this additional message. This fourth angel's message and the fifth. That's why the church is judged first, separate from others, so that it gets all the five angels' messages. When the 666 comes, it's nothing to do with us. It is to do with others who are already worshipping on that day, which God is saying, don't worship in. Come and worship on the Sabbath. Do you understand? You cannot be tested with an easy test like that. Our test is these additional messages to make 5 wise virgins. It's a top up to the third angel's message. Right. And read on. This, the message of Elijah.
The message of Elijah that restores all things is indeed an addition to the third angel's message.
Right.
And it shall certainly swell into a loud cry.
It will certainly swell into a loud cry. Whether we like it or not. You might dislike it, but someone will pick it. Right? It does not mean it's going to stop with you. It will go into the whole world and swell into a loud cry, whether we like it or not. We can team up and say, no, we are not going to the kingdom, we are going straight to heaven. But this same message is not for one person, for everyone. It will swell into a loud cry, right? And
it shall gather God's people from the 4 corners of the earth,
right,
and bring them out of Babylon.
This is the message which will gather the people from all corners of the world and bring what?
And bring them out of Babylon.
Right.
As the earth is lightened with the glory of the angel.
All the people will keep the statutes that are going to be saved. The only people who won't keep the statutes will remain in Babylon. That's why everyone who rejects the statute becomes a Babylon. But those who will catch on to that message will receive the letter rain and because to keep all the statutes. They will keep the statutes. Because that's the law of God. That's what makes heaven itself. So people will be in that law which heaven is keeping. Now, let's go to the next paragraph, 9.1. As Noah's ark.
As Noah's ark preserved every living thing that was to inhabit the earth after the flood.
Right.
In like manner, the restored kingdom of Judah and Israel is to gather and preserve from the plagues every living thing that is to inhabit the new earth.
Right.
The kingdom restored is to be the ark in our day.
Now we have a second ark. We had, as it was in the days of Noah, there was an ark. It shall be in the days of the coming of Christ. This is the ark. It's only according. Don't laugh at the people who rejected Noah. When you are actually rejecting the kingdom message, it's just the same way. That is the same way. They did not believe in the building of the ark. Like atheists, they don't believe in the establishment of the kingdom. They are so adamant. The way they were adamant in the time of Noah, they are adamant in the time of the second coming of Christ to establish the kingdom. So it's still the same spirit. We have an ark, brethren. The ark is the kingdom. Catch on to the message and be with Noah. That is the ark. And it shall be until the coming of Christ to establish the kingdom. As we did not believe, we will see it being established. Now, and what?
The kingdom restored is to be the ark in our day.
Right.
And her people shall live and reign 1,000 years with Christ.
Right.
And finally return when the earth is made new.
Right. That's what is coming from timely greetings. And let us go to 10.1, just at the bottom there. We have now seen.
We have now seen that the restoration of all things begins with the gathering of the people unto Judah.
Right.
and that the kingdom is complete when the earth is made new.
Right.
Let us therefore do what we can to help build the ark now, and to enter it with as many souls as possible.
Right.
For inspiration's own revelation of this truth shows that we are approaching the day of restitution of all things.
Right.
That
I want
this
you
is
to.
the message.
I
of
want
God.
you to read from Spirit of Prophecy, Testimonies for the Church, volume 9, page 62.2. We want also Sister White to tell us: is Christ really coming to establish this kingdom? 62.2, right?
1962.2.
Yes.
There is danger of entering into commercialism
Mm-hmm.
and becoming so engrossed in worldly business
Right.
that the truths of the Word of God, in their purity and power, will not be brought into the life.
Right.
The love of trade and gain is becoming more and more prevalent.
Why are people not studying the kingdom message? It's because of the love of trade and gain. They are so engrossed into this daily life, everywhere trying to make more money, more, and the kingdom message is slipping in without anyone noticing. This is what Sister White saw. And what?
My brethren,
Mm-hmm.
let your souls be truly converted.
Right?
If ever there was a time when we needed to understand our responsibilities,
Right?
it is now.
It is now.
When truth is fallen in the
Right.
streets and equity cannot enter,
Right?
Satan has come down with great power to work with all deceivableness
Mm-hmm.
of unrighteousness
Mhm.
in them that perish.
Right.
And everything that can be shaken will be
Will
shaken.
be shaken. Yeah?
And those things that cannot be shaken will remain.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord
Mm.
is coming very soon.
The Lord is coming very soon. What for? To
And
take
we are
us.
entering into
Right.
scenes of calamity.
Right?
Satanic agencies, though unseen, are working to destroy human life.
Right?
But if our life is hid with Christ in God, we shall see of his grace and salvation.
Right?
Christ is coming to establish his kingdom on the earth.
What is Christ coming to do?
To establish his kingdom.
He is coming to establish his kingdom where? On earth. So are we ready for this incident? Because we have been explaining how he is going to establish the kingdom. So that maybe you and I can stop busying yourself in other things and busy yourself with the preparation for the soon coming of the kingdom. Are you ready? Christ is coming soon to establish the kingdom. You and I should not ignore that call. That is a ringing bell for us today and the Sabbath of the 12th to prepare for Christ is coming to establish the kingdom on earth. May God bless this beautiful subject. And sorry for the interruption that we've been going. We cannot stop even neighbors from doing their day-to-day job, but we will keep the Sabbath as everyone else should keep the Sabbath and honor our Lord. Bless God for this Sabbath, and may God be with us and bless this message.